Dígwyd YouTube, Consatatu. So I initially wanted to speak Irish for this vlog because it's about visiting the Parliament and it's about a little bit of respect to the country, just a little. With various help from a Trinity College Dublin translation site and Google's software, I came up with a pretty good script. I might include some gaffes and actual Irish while I speak to you, but it just sounded far too complicated for me, and the level of Irish that was involved is just a grade or two above me at the moment. So here we go. Basically, yesterday I went to the Dála with my YCL class. It was really interesting actually, I have to say. I'll show you around sometime because I can't show you inside the building, but I can show you a little bit of information that they told us about the outside of the building. And yeah, anyway, so when we arrived, we were greeted by a local councillor and a TD from the Labour Party who represent an area near mine. They're not technically my representatives, but for the majority of the class they're representatives of them. So that's why we met with them. When we arrived, they showed us the main hall. We had to sign in as well. We had to wear name tags and everything with the TD's name on it, just so they know why we're here. Sadly, I didn't get to keep it. But anyway, he showed us various different paintings that are in the main hall of people like Michael Collins and Calvin Brewer, and they used to have a painting up there of Mary McAleese, and that spot is usually reserved for the president. So when Mary McAleese retired, they still have to put up a painting of Michael D, which apparently is still being painted, which is strange. But I love Michael D, so I'm not saying anything. Yeah, where was I? Yeah. So then we saw various different posters from the risings and things like that, and then he took us in and showed us photographs of various diplomats that arrived, including a photo of Tony Blair sitting next to our Ceann Comhairle, who's like the head of the Dála, which is quite strange because never in the history of the state, as far as I believe, has a English politician sat in the Dála. So that was quite interesting. We've had American politicians. We had Nixon, Reagan, and Bill Clinton. Yeah, we didn't have Nixon. So that was that. That was quite interesting. Then he took us on a tour of the upper parts of the building, which include the Seanad, which is probably the House of Lords. No. Whatever the higher parliament is. The House of Lords, I think it is, in the UK, or the Senate, which is the direct English translation in the UK, in the US. I'm waffling, it's very early in the morning, late, depending on point of view. And that was quite interesting. I've always admired the people that sit in the Seanad, and it's a lot smaller than it looks on TV, which is still nice to see it. So once we left the Seanad, he took us on a tour of another part of the building that has paintings of all the previous Taoiseach. And they still have to put up a painting of Brian Cowan, which is quite strange. But it was nice to see the history. And they still have to put up a painting of Enda. That could be fun. I don't think he'll get a painting until he finishes being Taoiseach. Yeah. So after that, then we went back down a couple of flights of stairs, which was interesting for all the girls in their high heels, because they're marble staircases, the majority of them. And we went to the vaults, and we had a talk with the two men about why we're there, why we joined the course, why we think the course is so good, what we plan to do with the course, etc. And it was really interesting, and it was like, one of the points they made clear is the divide between young people and the political system. There's no apparent interest for young people to get involved in the political system. So that's always been a problem, and it's never been one anyone seems to have been able to crack. So, I don't know. hopefully. I kind of always have been slightly interested in politics, but I can only absorb so much of it before my brain melts and my feet are slipping. Sorry about that. Yeah. After we'd had our chat, he had to rush off to a vote in the Dáil that he couldn't miss because, well, if you miss it, they give out to you. Or they eject you from the party. I think. Put it this way. You get very strong words. Anyway, so after he literally ran up the corridor and up several flights of stairs, the councillor took us up to the Dáil public gallery, and it's really... The Dáil chamber doesn't look like that. It doesn't look as big as it does on the TV, but it was really good to see, to look down on everyone, because the viewing chamber is above the main Dáil, so you can literally see down into everyone's laps, and they're all fidgeting with their phones and everything. It's kind of... As we went in, Sinn Féin were proposing an amendment to the education bill from 2012 to basically broaden the anti-bullying policy to include cyberbullying in all its forms. And various members of the Sinn Féin party got up and said their piece in support of the bill. Then a member of the government got up and said while they think the Sinn Féin amendment is valid and good and great and all that, they're proposing their own new anti-bullying legislation, which was supposed to be published this week, but due to a bereavement on one of the minister's sides, he won't be able to post it until next week. So they got up and they said they're back and forth. Then there was a vote on whether or not to accept the amendment, and needless to say, the government outvoted them 2-1, nearly. It was 77 to 45, I think, the event in the end. Anyway, but it was really nice to see the government in action. The TD that represents us said that the reason we don't see so many of them on the TV during like private members' time and things like that, when people are talking about these various bills, is because they're not necessary and they're not needed in the Dáil chamber unless they have speaking time. Because once you're in private members' time, you can't get up and shout to somebody across the Dáil during the time they speak, because they're allowed X amount of minutes to speak, and you can't say anything to them until it's your turn to speak. And if you're not going to be speaking on the bill, then you might as well not be in the chamber. So they go off to their offices and they do various bits of work, and yeah, they come in if it's necessary to vote. So we must have sat watching them for about 3/4 of an hour, going back and forth and listening to various different arguments and for and against, and it was interesting, I have to say. It hasn't slightly really dampened my desire to go into politics, but it hasn't really inflamed it either. It's kind of one of those thoughts in the back of my head that comes out every once in a blue moon when I get really angry about something. Anyway, so that was that. That was our little trip to the Dáil. Unfortunately, I was so caught up paying attention, I didn't get a chance to vlog or take pictures, which I'm really quite annoyed about. But, like I said, I will show you around the outside of it at some stage, in a little bit more detail, just because it's a good building. It used to be all one house. Like I said, eventually I'll, get better at speaking Irish, and I can speak to you a little bit more fluidly, with any luck. Anyway, gur maigad chun fécinn dhéir, agus slán go fóill.